Alrighty, so it is currently about 3:15 in the morning, and I couldn't sleep, so I decided to get up and do some stuff in the car. So been noticing recently doing a pull about 6,000 RPM it starts to lose a bit of momentum, and by 6,500 it's struggling, and I can't really get to 7,000, 7,500 RPM, which is a red line. So we thought maybe it was a restriction, but then I thought, well, hang on, I could redline back when it was 8 to 10 psi. So I dropped the boost down, and I still couldn't rev that high. So we're pulling the plugs out. So the plugs are already out of the car at the moment. Don't know if I told you or not, but I've done a few things. I got a new battery lead coming from the boot. 2-gauge wire to the starter motor, then a 4-gauge wire to this terminal here, and then everything feeds off of that. And obviously batteries in the boot now. Yeah, I did a smoke test this morning with one of these little things. I went shopping on Temu and spent a little bit too much money, but yeah, it's quite a handy little thing to have. Anyway, filled it full of baby oil and took the filter off and just smoke tested it. Any leak that I had was on one of the couplers down there. The clamp wasn't tight enough, but everywhere else was good. So doing a leak test with a smoke machine that I bought. Obviously it's turned off now, but it's been going for about 15 minutes. Any leak that I had was on the intake pipe down there, on that angle just there. Otherwise, nothing. And yeah, comes out the exhaust, so nothing anywhere else. So the intake manifold's still good. All the pipes are good, even the blower valve's not leaking, which was a surprise, but everything up here is not leaking either. So no boost control leaks, no nothing. So the only place I had smoke coming out was from the exhaust pipe, which means everything's still intact up here. But yeah, we thought that maybe it was the intake, the standard one, that was causing a restriction and not flowing enough up top. But the log indicates that, you know, between the AFR readings and the knock level, that it's actually misfiring rather than a restriction. So we've got the plugs out, and we've got them over here at the moment. So this is the trailing plug. Now this camera is not really good at focusing up front, but you can see it's pretty fouled. And that's the other trailing plug, which are there, the RE9 BTs, so the standard RX8 ones, because they're 9 rated. And then I have the NGK Racing Iridium, they are 7420-9s. Now that's the leading plug, and it looks pretty shit too. And then we have this one here. This camera is shit for this kind of stuff. Don't know if it'll even focus. No. Whatever. Anyway, you can see it's black and it looks shit. So what I'm going to do for right now is use my little map gas, heat that up, not to the point where it's glowing, but enough to blow off the carbon and shit, and put them back in, and then go for a drive in the morning. But I am also thinking about doing a depression test and seeing what the engine's actually at right now. So we're in maybe 3,000 Ks now. I haven't done the compression test since the last one, probably 3 months ago now, and that was like 100 psi, which wasn't the greatest, but I hadn't even pushed it past 4,000 RPM at that point. So now that I've redlined it a few times and we're running higher boost, and the engine actually feels like it's got power now, I want to test it again and see what we're actually getting. I'm not expecting anything too high because it was used housings and used irons, and they were just sanded. So I'd be surprised if I'm getting 120, especially because the tolerances that I set in the side seals and yeah, the side seals essentially was a little bit bigger to accommodate for the obviously the boost level. So I'm expecting it to be down a little bit, but yeah, we'll see. So I'll clean these plugs up, and then we'll do a compression test and see what we're getting, and yeah, go from there. And like, honestly, I don't care what the motor's like. The motor pulls hard. Like at 16 psi, it pulls hard. So I am happy with how it's performing. It's just now I want to be able to get to redline and not lose the power at 6,500 RPM. Yeah, we'll clean them up and see what happens after this. Alright, so a couple of hours later, got some sleep. Spark plugs clean. You can see that. Yeah, pretty good. And they are gapped to 0.4 mil. The trailing ones were like 0.9 or something. Huge. So yeah, gapped to the 0.4. Pain in the ass to get with that. Anyway, I'm going to chuck the depression tester. So this bad boy, chuck that on, see what numbers we got. Doesn't really matter because it still performs well, so whatever. And yeah, chuck them back in and then see how it behaves after that. So we'll get the compression tester in now and see what happens. Turn the light back on. Alright. Yeah. It's been used a couple of times the past couple of weeks, so where's my cable? Chucking the depression tester in. It's fine, I'll edit it out anyway.
Okay.
Or will I?
Please do. You can't see me on it, can you?
Nope.
Okay, good. Didn't even see that.
I can tell. Alright, she's in and we're ready to go. Now, I've got to definitely still turn off fuel pumps. Because yeah, obviously it's going to fire otherwise. Let's do that first. Oh, and see what we get. Bring the camera over.
A few moments later.
Actually, I need to be able to see when to stop the test. Alrighty, so compression test is done, spark plugs are back in. Not as high as I thought it was going to be, but it just means I can turn the boost up a bit more now, because I know it's not as high as compression. But yeah, I expected, because the side clearances were oversized, because I was going to run boost, you're generally not going to get to the 140 psi that a normal run assist will have anyway, so whatever. Now, what we're doing is I borrowed a 3D scanner from a client of mine, which is just like a shining 3D one. Yeah, nice little kit this. Pain in the ass to use though. So I've been 3D scanning the center console ashtray cigarette lighter thing, and I got most of it done. But I need to recreate this for the Haltech keypad and rotary trim module, because the one that I've got in there is a Series 2 design, which I'll probably chuck up for free if anyone wants it, but stop beeping. Yeah, it works. Like, it holds the keypad, it holds a well, I can't even think of the name of it, the rotary trim module. I did mess up on the locator, so it is more one pointing up, a little bit off to the side, but yeah, I don't care. It's always sitting around 3 or 4 anyway. So yeah, the problem there is, if you can see that, let's turn them on. Gap just here. So Series 2 is a little bit different in this section. So I'm scanning that one that came out, so I can recreate this for the Series 1, and then I'll put this up in the description. You can have it, I don't really care. Like, I didn't spend much time making this, and I got this from Thingiverse and modified it to suit this and this, and yeah, it's got the hole in the back, the 2 holes for the bolts for the nuts on the back, and then this is the rotary trim module with the locator on the side there, which you probably need to move to line it up if you want it perfect, but yeah, I'll chuck that in the description anyway. But yeah, the reason for the scanner is to remake this properly, because I don't like this here having the gap. So I'll get stuck into that soon and get that done, but I've got to go for a drive first and see how this goes. Alright, I've got a Series 2 steering wheel as well. No problems with the airbag though. So 2 wires on the airbag on the Series 1, 1 on the Series 2, just connected the yellow one, left the red one just dangling in there. And yeah, no warning on the dash, so happy with that. And the steering wheel feels pretty good. Obviously it's not perfect, it's got a little crap over here, but I might try coat it with something, or just get it, yeah, I don't know, just from not being cleaned and not being oiled. But it looks good, feels very different. But I don't have these buttons working because obviously I've got a Pioneer head unit, and I don't have the decoder for the buttons to go to the head unit with the Metro bloody whatever the hell it is in there. Things are a pain in the ass to get these working with an aftermarket head unit. But yeah, so get stuck into that now and see what we can get done. Alright, so I'm just warming the car up, and we're going to go for a drive and see how it responds to the smaller gap and the dwell time change, because dwell time's a lot less now than what it was. It was like 7.6 milliseconds, and now it's down to like 4 or 3.5 or something. So I think the big problem is it was oversaturating the ignition coils and yeah, having a negative effect. But we'll see what happens. Main concern is the trailing plugs probably wasn't even firing because of the size of the gap. But yeah, we'll see what it feels like now. Just wait for this to warm up a little bit more. Now the fun part with running flex fuel is my fuel pressure is about 1.5 psi high at idle, at cold, so that when I get into temperature, the fuel pressure actually comes down about 1 psi. So it's always about 0.2 higher than target, but that's not a problem. It's just when it's cold and the fuel's cold, temperature's very different. Still 1 psi higher than target. about 5% short-term trim at the moment. Fuel pressure is about 0.5 of the PSI now, different. So we're asking for 37.1 and we're getting 37.6, 37.7-ish. Up and down. 7% trim now. Wow. Need to pull a bit of fuel out. Yeah, I think I might have to adjust that a little bit. It's a decent amount of trim, it's almost 10%. Which means I'm expecting this to misfire pretty badly. But it definitely pulls harder. That pulls pretty good. That's a lot better than what it has been. I guess spark plugs will make that difference, especially because the trailing probably wasn't firing. Very, very different. Wow. Okay, so we're definitely rich. Now your target fuel pressure is 37.1, we're still 38 almost, so. But it looks like we're going to have to pull about maybe 5% of fuel out of the entire VE now. It is rich everywhere. Very rich the entire way through. Okay. About half an AFR too rich. Started to correct it there at 10. Yeah, 10.3 the whole way through that. Gonna need to do some VE work. It's fucking rich everywhere. It's just a sea of blue on the screen. That sucks. Let's pull over up here. Make a little change. Now, I haven't gone back to 98, so I don't know what this is going to be like on 98, but I think we need to do a bit of correction virtually everywhere through here. Alright, 2% trim. Let's see what it responds to on low boost. not bad. A little bit lean at the top end, but that's a lot better. But 7 PSI is shit. Don't recommend 7 PSI. Once you've been driving around on 14 PSI or 16 PSI as a daily, 7 PSI sucks. Just at the top end. So when the SSV opens, it stutters a bit. It's got like a vroom. Yes, I got an engine light because of the AFR warning before I corrected it again. I don't want to touch the VE yet until I know it's good, because I've got to go back to 98 and see what it's like there before I start fucking around too much. So back on 12 pound. We'll have a look at the log and see what it looks like, but I think the injector data might be wrong now because it was changed to cater for how rich it was running, and it was because the trailing plugs weren't firing. So, didn't pick that shit up. Garage door moves so slow. Let's go have a look at this log and see what it looks like. Alrighty, so we've got some time today to get some wiring and stuff done. I have done a few things on the Black RX over the past couple of days. It's been a very slow process. So I think it's like the 7th of January today or something. So yeah, it's been about maybe 4 days since I drove it. Did some tuning, which I'll put some videos up on that soon. Yeah, tuned up from 7 PSI through to 16 PSI. Found a few problems, got a solution for a few problems like the SSV and the VDI. So what I found was when I was tuning, I couldn't go past 6,500 RPM easily. It was like at 6,400, it just starts to die and just doesn't feel right. So I just stopped. Like you literally, like you're on the power, you're making boost, and the revs are climbing, and it just hits 60, like 6,000 RPM, and then slowly goes to 64, and then just stops and just doesn't want to go further. Weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen. So I looked at the VE. It did go a bit rich up top, so the VE's obviously fallen off, efficiency's fallen off a cliff. So we reduced a little bit of the VE, leaned it out a little bit, and it went to 7,000, but it just falls in its ass. So obviously the 4-port engine obviously doesn't have the extra APV valves, so it doesn't have the extra flow up top. But even previously running less boost in 98, it would still rev to 7.5, 8,000. So something's changed. The only thing that I can remember that happened around the same time was I locked the VDI behind the intake just there. So that thing right there, I locked it closed. Now we do have the SSV running, and that makes a hell of a difference. I keep umming and ahhing about this. Everyone that I talk to is like, just lock it open. You don't need it. It's not worth using. It just causes problems. So I did that, drove around and was like, this is really shit. Like, I got no low end power, the idle shit, trims are all over the place on the highway, I'm using shitloads of fuel. So I went, no, I'm going to turn it back on. And as soon as I turned it on, like the second I pulled out of the driveway, I was just like, holy crap, this has torque again. Like, I can literally take off at 1400 RPM, ride the clutch, and it just goes. Like, it just wants to go. Under 3000 RPM, it is easy as hell to drive with the SSV closed. So we mucked around playing with that, got it to a relatively good spot. And yeah, if you have that timed correctly, it has a massive effect on top end power. If you get it wrong, it has a very negative effect. So I'm considering adding like a switch under that to say, hey, it is open or it's not open. And I have an option coming for a vacuum pump for this, so that I can run the SSV and the VDI off of its own independent vacuum source, that is a vacuum pump, and run it through the standard reservoir on the bottom of the tank. So I'll disconnect the vacuum line at the back there that feeds the Haltech, the solenoids there, and run it through a vacuum pump, and yeah, just feed the VDI and the SSV their own vacuum source, so they always have vacuum regardless of how much pressure and everything's going on in the engine. The only reason I haven't used that is because I was like, well, 6000 RPM, you're in boost, that VDI does not have a chance in hell of opening. It just, yeah, positive pressure, needs vacuum, not going to work. Maybe. Or you can smell it.
Turn the camera off and it's flat-footed. The Leo has a battery change. Decent sized bridge. A bit too fast.
It's too loud. Neighbors don't like it.
A few moments later.
I wonder what I could be doing here. And here's Shane. I got mine. Got Shane's over there, silver one, turbocharged with a Haltech plug and play. And then we've got one over there, little black one over there. That is a supercharged one. And then over here, FD. Started really easily. Took about maybe 3 seconds. Popped a little bit. Almost started. Ran around the rotor. Stalled. Started again. Little rev in it, and it's good. So a little bit of a tweak. Alrighty, so it is Friday, I don't even know what Friday it is, Friday the 16th. So it's been about 2 weeks since I've done much at all. Had to go tune an RX7 for a mate of mine, which I'll put a video up on that. But that was a Haltech PS1000 or Platinum Sport 1000, old school, no O2 control, no wideband. We had to tune it on the fly, and that was a learning experience. Compared to Nexus and the Elite, the PS was really basic, and yeah, anyway. So part of the payment for me doing that for him, I did get a few things. So I got a new front bumper, which is, it's like a Mazda speed thing, I guess, but it's not fiberglass. It is ABS, or ABS poly, and it fits like a glove. Smooth as glue. So nice big open mouth on the front. So intercooler will have lots and lots of breathing room. It does have a plate there as well, which can expand and you can go bigger. But I wanted the number plate on the front, so I left it in there. And obviously oil cooler, and then I'm going to get another oil cooler for that side so we can use that. But yeah, it is probably one of the better bars I've ever seen in aftermarket, because it fits like a glove. Like the indicators go in. This line just here where the headlight is, it fits perfectly. The whole way around here it fits perfectly. It's got the metal brace at the top, which I broke, or the rivet came off, so I've got to re-rivet that. But yeah, I had to do it while I was there, so I just ripped it off, zip tied the under tray on the bottom and bolted it up and just drove home. And yeah, it looks really good. So what we're doing is rejigging the front end a little bit. So intercooler, obviously I was very, very close to buying a new intercooler, a smaller one, because this thing is huge. Like, it is really big. That's what she said. But I didn't want to compromise the cooling, because this works really, really well on intake temps. Yes, it is big, it's 100mm thick, it takes up all of the radius on the front. With the original bar, it just fit. And I had, obviously, cooling problems in, like on the highway, for instance, still. Coming and going. So at 100 k's an hour, I still had to use the thermo fans on all the time, which I know exactly the reason behind that. So cruising around normally, not a problem whatsoever. Everything's good, temperatures are pretty good. I can't use the aircon much because a separate reason, but the main reason that I wanted to fix, we've now got this bar, I've got to do this properly. So I'm remaking some brackets for the sides here. I've cut up the crash bar because there's no way in hell it is going to fit with this intercooler pipe coming up through here. So I did have the original leg on here yesterday, and there was no, like, yeah, technically I could have brought it up and gone, you know, this way and then around, but I didn't want to have to do that. And I can't go down and up because obviously the radiator is coming up through here. The only way I could do it was either go to an intercooler that had an output up here, so get this over here like the Falcon ones, and then just do a 90 straight in. And that was the option I was going to buy, rather than using this. So it would still come in that side, and then the Falcon ones have an end tank on here, which has an output that comes up and sits above about here, and then has a 3-inch output here. And then, yeah, just a 90-degree bender would have gone straight in. So that would have been really good, but it was about $900 or something for a PWR one. And it was pretty small, nowhere near as efficient as the race series one. It just was more convenient, and I could have left the crash bar in place. So yeah, keep that in consideration when you buy your intercooler for an RX8. I probably should have waited. It's the biggest one I could fit on the front, and it does a really good job, but yeah, crash bar, it cannot be used with this style. Or I'm sure other people have worked out how to do it, but for me, yeah, I didn't want to spend another $1,000 on an intercooler, so I'm making it work. I even considered chopping it down here, so the crash bar was there, and then bringing this forward so I could run the pipe behind and then up. But I didn't want to cut into the $900 intercooler. So again, money, cutting things that I shouldn't need to cut. Make it work, just remove the crash bar. If I need to, I'll put a crash bar back on later, or make up a new con. So just put a flange on there with a bit of flat bar or chrome moly bar or something to come up to here, and bring it right out, and then bring another bar across there, cut that off, do the same thing, use it for the intercooler mount, and still have an open channel for this, but have some front end support for the front bar and crash and stuff like that. But I guess the trick there is don't crash. You know, avoid the stationary objects or things that hurt cars. So yeah, so this is the pipe that I made up originally with a bend on it, so it's going to go essentially back in like so, and I might have to put a 45 on there instead of a 15 because now the angle is a little bit different. And I do have a 45 sitting up there somewhere. And amongst all the crap, you can see my bench is absolutely disgusting right now. Everything's great, like I've got shit everywhere. Like it's just a mess in here. But I haven't had time to deal with it. And I finally got time and I'm like, you know what, I want to do this. I want to get the bar back on, get the intercooler mounted properly, make up some ducting because we can see right here. Actually, no, I'm going to go grab a torch. I'll be back in one sec. All right, torch. So the reason that I was doing this, right? On the highway speed, 100 k's an hour, cruising along, temperatures sitting at say 84, 85 degrees. Now you just sit there at 100 k's an hour, say 2700 RPM, and the temperature goes to 85, and then 2 minutes later it's 86, 2 minutes later it's 87, you go up a slight hill, it goes 88, 89, and then it sits at 90. Now 90 is not bad, right? I do have a 78 degrees thermostat in there. I've got the thermo fans going from 78 degrees on full. Now 100 k's an hour, 90 degrees, just cruise around, it'll sit there relatively comfortably, and then it'll just go 10 minutes, 91, 5 minutes later, 92, 5 minutes later, 93, and you go up hills, you go down hills, you go up hills. Now, let's just say you're cruising like this for 15, 20 minutes, sitting at 92 degrees. You go up a hill, and it goes 93, 94, 95, and then you go down the hill and it goes 94, 93, 92, 91, 90, 88, 87, 86, and then you start coasting. You let your foot off the accelerator, the temperature drops dramatically super quick. Now, that says to me that obviously, like this shit here, the air is being forced into the front, and the original bar, this was pretty much flat up against it. So this intercooler was getting most of the air. Behind the intercooler, there was nothing to direct the flow into the radiator. So especially when I turned the aircon on, I could literally watch the temperature go from 85 degrees to 95 degrees within maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And I just turn the aircon off. That is another problem as well that I'm sorting out. Now that's not just ducting. So behind here, we have the aircon condenser. So you see that bad boy right there. Now, I might just move the intercooler out of the way. So we've got aircon condenser, right? Big thing right there. Now that is mounted by a tab just there. So that tab just there. And there's another one on the other side, just over there somewhere. Yeah, just there. And then 2 at the bottom. So, goddamn torch. Get in there. That tab just there, and that one just there. Now what the problem with that is, there is literally no air gap between the condenser and the radiator. So the radiator that I currently have is a God knows what. It looks like an eBay 50mm radiator. It has a PRR stamped on the top of it, but I can't find anything online about it. And the problem is yeah, this gap just here, like there is no gap, it's hard up against it. So really between the condenser and the radiator there should be 10 to 15 mil, like a gap like this, and then there's foam that goes down the sides to direct the airflow through the condenser into the radiator. So as soon as you turn the aircon on, the aircon pumps the gas into a liquid, and then it comes through the condenser, the evaporator, so the evaporator behind the dash, comes back out as essentially cold gas. So when it goes from the compressor down here into the TX valve controls the output into the evaporator. The evaporator pretty much is just a big chamber, so it has a small little pipe, goes into a big chamber, and the gas essentially goes from a liquid form or a compressed liquid form into a gas form, which then creates a super cooling effect and cools down the evaporator, which makes the aircon cold. And as it comes back out, it comes back into the condenser, and then it's supposed to cool down from there because that process gets hot. And yeah, which pretty much heats up the condenser here. So this condenser is made to cool down the gas from the compressor, compressing the gas, and which generates heat essentially. So it's heating the gas, and then anyway, it's hard to explain. So this bad boy here, as soon as you turn the aircon on, this thing gets hot, like it gets hot, and there's no air gap. So my radiator is already struggling as it is, and then you add another, well, probably 60-70 degrees of ambient temperature from this bad boy running, and it gets really hot, and it heat soaks that radiator, and it cannot handle it. So what I've done is I bought another radiator. I bought a Koyo 36 mil, I think it was, or 32 mil full aluminium radiator to get rid of this stupid 52 mil one, but that won't be here for about a week. So what I'm going to do for the moment is obviously get the intercooler mounted up, drill a couple of holes, put some riv nuts in, make the brackets up, make sure this pipe fits, which today's Friday, so if I need to buy more pipe for the weekend, I have to do that before 3 o'clock. And it's currently about 9:30ish or 9 o'clock or something, so yeah, anyway. And then yeah, I've got some core flute somewhere inside, which I'm going to use for this gap right here. So when I'm going to pretty much have the core flute coming across the top here to separate this section here from this section here, because the air cannot be coming in through this hole. It can't be coming in through this hole needs to be blocked, this hole needs to be blocked once the pipe's in there, so that when the air comes through the front bar, it has one direction to go, which is through here. And when it gets through here, it can't come up and go this way and create low pressure in the back here, or high pressure in the back. Now, the other problem is obviously when it comes through here, it's going to want to come out this little flappy thing just here that I cut to get the intercooler pipe up. So we're going to make up a bit of a core flute channel to come this way and separate this section here. So obviously the bar has the cooler side here. So separate this from this, and then also look into there, and you'll see there's a little bit of plastic missing from the guides out here too. So when the airflow comes through there, it can't come up the side of the radiator and into the engine bay. Same on the other side. Move some shit out of the way. This side is the worrying side, because there is nothing here. Like there's already a bracket or holes there for the oil cooler, but I don't have that yet. And I want to run that and then put some oil lines going to this side, tie it into this one, so have dual oil coolers. Now, obviously, you can see right there, that is straight into the engine bay. So that channel right there essentially means that air will come in here, and yes, it will go through there and go into the tires, but it will also go that way and end up down into there, which then creates a pressure differential between here and back there. And what we want to have is the pressure goes in here and then out and down, not in there and across, and in there and across, and stops this air from going through the radiator. So essentially you want to force all of the air through here and have a different pressure in the back behind there, so that this air here can't just go, I'm going this way because it's easier. You want to block that path off and have it go straight through here, and then go, oh, well, we've got a big channel just here, like it's a big empty space. Can't go anywhere. Okay, it needs to go through the radiator and then out through the thermofans and out to the engine bay and then down to the engine and down the back of the car. Where right now with that, air's just going to go, nope, I'm going through that way because that is a big open space, or it's going to come through here, get forced through there, and then it's going to sit here and go, I don't want to go that way because that's too hard, let's go that way. Or down through the little channels, the relief channels in the bottom of that tray just there. So you can see those little holes, those ones just there. Yeah, it'll go through them instead because it's just easier to take the path of least resistance. So that's not a hard problem to solve. Core flute straight up there, bit of EV foam, whatever the hell it's called, around the pipe, and the core flute in there. And then yeah, we'll make up some channel to go to here, same deal, go across here and go up, and then come across the top and block off this section here so that the air can't come over the radiator and go into these holes like they had been. I haven't been too concerned about it, 'cause I'm like, it's a little baby hole, but then you think about it, it's just another channel the air can go through there and not go through the radiator, which is causing some really annoying random problems. It's not enough to be a big problem, but it's enough for me to go, I don't like it, it's not ideal. So anyway, we'll finish making these brackets up. I've just made some L brackets off that, some galvanized steel, just got to paint it. And I've got to drop that down a little bit, drill a hole there, put a riv nut in. Obviously that's pain because that's already in there, but I can't use that unless I bent it that way and twisted it and did all sorts of weird shit. But yeah, I want it to be like that. So drill a hole there, put a riv nut, hole there, put a riv nut, mount that bad boy up, remake that pipe, make sure that's good, and then we'll get stuck into the ducting and get all that sorted. God, I hate intercoolers when they do this kind of shit. Like, you can see every little mark in it. Doesn't matter how careful you are. So one thing I did find is you can get a zip tie and you can push them in there and you can just go like this and it straightens them back out. So I might do that when I'm finished, but right now I'm not going to because I'm probably going to damage more fins as I work on it. So anyway, back soon. So intercooler's mounted again. And it's rock solid with some decent mounts this time. None of that alloy shit. But yeah, I've got to seal up that gap right there. So thinking from the front bar, maybe stick it to here or mount it to here or something, and then another one going this way to seal that section. So air can't come through here and go that way. And it also can't come out from behind there and go that way. I had to cut this part of the crash bar off because that's where the intercooler pipe comes up and goes that way and goes into there. That side's still on there, so I better leave something for a bit of protection. But I gotta go down to Bunnings and buy some EVA foam to put across the top here as well, seal that gap. And seal that bad boy up there, because that is straight into the engine bay, and you can see my fingers in there. Like, yeah. So I've got to seal that up. And thinking a piece of core flute, same deal, this way, straight up there. Yeah, I don't know if I might leave that, that's going to be coming up to about there. Leave a little bit of a gap there, something that can come underneath it but not around it. I don't think that's going to matter too much, but put a piece there, I guess. We'll see. So it looks pretty good. I don't mind it. It's going to hide it. I just got some aluminium sheets to make up ducting to go around, and then I went and got the fucking shit to put in here, and then realised I didn't buy the actual foam to put in there, so I gotta get back to Bunnings and buy some more, or actually buy some. and then yeah, make up all the thing. But I started blocking off all the little holes and shit with speed tape. So yeah, keen to see how this goes. Looks pretty good. So what I got to do is I'm making up this here out of core flute, trying to get the mounting right and the shape and where shit's gonna go, and make sure pipes are fucking sealed so everything's good in there. And then I've got to trim this bad boy, piece of aluminium sheet. I've got two pieces. This is a section of it, the other shit's inside. So I got enough to do probably the entire front end in aluminium, but I knew I was going to fuck up a couple of times, so I bought two big sheets. It's like 900 by 600 and it's just like paper thin. So once that's made, match it to that and bolt it up there, and then seal off around here, and then make another section that come up here to the front bumper so that just matches, and then seals with some of this shit. So that shit there. So foam stuff against the front bar, so against that, so that air gets forced into the front of the through the front big mouth on it, and it can't go anywhere but through there. And then once it's through the intercooler, it can't go anywhere else but through the radiator, or condenser radiator. And that's what those two were going to be for, and then the one at the front. So probably three separate pieces, one there, one across the top here, and then on the bar another section that comes up and slots in between and goes from there to there. Underneath I'm not too concerned about, but yeah, it can't go over, it can't go left and right, it can only go through or underneath and then through. So once that's done, then yeah, I think I'll go E85. I think I've only got like a quarter of a tank at the moment, so go fill it up with 70-80% E85, turn the boost up and see if it pops or see if it goes. Alrighty, so we've done a few tests on the rear mounted battery. So the battery was in the boot, not down here anymore. I've measured the voltage to the ECU using the Haltech software, the voltage to here, the voltage from the alternator, the voltage in the starter motor, the voltage in the boot. And what I'm finding, and I kind of forgot about this part, but it's so convenient not having the battery here. Like, you have the intake right here and it works so much better. When the battery's in the boot, you get too much of a voltage drop, which most people be like, well, fucking duh. Now, I originally had a 4-gauge cable and it worked okay. Voltage dropped to about 10 volts and it was whatever. I went to a 2-gauge wire, so 2-gauge from the boot, into the floor, across the chassis rail and up into the starter motor, and then yeah, it comes up into here and goes to the starter motor. I originally had it the other way and that caused too much voltage drop as well. So I ran another ground wire, so I've got 2 grounds in the boot, one to each strut tower, and then I ran another 2-gauge ground through the middle of the car, down the transmission tunnel and into the gearbox. Still didn't fix it. So when I was cranking, I was getting about 8.5 volts to 9 volts. As soon as the RPM started to kick up, the voltage went up to 10 volts and the ECU kicked in and started the car. It's just enough to be a pain in the ass. Sometimes you crank and it's like, you crank for 2 seconds and then the voltage goes up enough where it'll actually start, and not ideal really at all. So I added the AGM battery, so that one down there, up here. So it was sitting right there. I just had a 8-gauge wire going to ground and an 8-gauge going to here, and it started instantly. I was like, right, okay, something's wrong. So I got a long 2-gauge wire from the negative in the boot up into here, no change. Another 2-gauge wire from the battery to here, no change. It's literally just the length of the cable and the current draw just dropping the voltage down. So the voltage in the battery is 11.5 volts at crank. Voltage down here is about 8.5 to 9. So because it's like 4 meters, 5 meters of cable, it's just too much. So not ideal. Having another battery up here would be easier, but if I have it up here, I may as well not have it in the boot. So what I'm going to do is pull all that wire out, even though I just spent like $300 on wire, get rid of it all, mount the AGM battery here. So the high current start HC20, it's like 400 or 500 amp cranking battery. Once the engine starts, it's using the alternator anyway. Not going to be a big problem, but I do carry a jump starter in the car as well, like one of those little lithium polymer lipo bloody high current start ones. So that's always in the car. So if I ever find a problem with this, then that's a later problem. But I think what we need to do is battery there, the HC20. I'll weld a couple of tabs on, mounted to where the stock battery tray goes. It's small enough where it's going to sit, right there, and not interfere with the intake that I've got now. And yeah, just run another cable down to here, or even move all them back over to there. I don't know. I worked that hard hours ago. So I mean, the only other option was to change to a 0 gauge wire, but it just, yeah, it's not worth the cost at that point. Like I don't need a battery in the boot. If that's going to work, keep it there. I may even go to a lithium one later, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'm gonna get stuck into that now, get that removed, and weld some tabs under there, repaint it, chuck the battery up, and see how we go. But kind of looking forward to not having all these cables running everywhere. Get rid of all that shit. That'd be good. I'll send that footage as well. Alright, so I didn't record, unfortunately, what I did yesterday, which was obviously new front bars on there, on the shoes. They can go away. So yeah, got that new front bar on. Fits like a glove. Like, it is amazing fitment. Like, you can't even see the line. Everything's like, the indicator fits perfectly. The gap there is perfect. All around the headlight's perfect. I broke this stupid freaking carbon fiber thing though, trying to get it on there, so I got to order some of these. I do like the carbon fiber lip. Just gives a little bit of class to the front. And not having it on there looks like shit now, so I'm just leaving it on there. So what I did was I put this back on. I did intake pipe going through here to pod filter down there again. Honestly, it didn't make any difference whatsoever. So went for a drive last night, and intake temp was like 33 degrees. Outside temp was about 24. And when it was there, exactly the same temperature. So obviously sucking hot air in from the radiator, going into the turbo, getting hotter, coming back through the intercooler. Intercooler cools it down, goes to the intake, and measures right there. So really, it can go right there, reduce the restriction, have that. Yeah, I don't know. I really want to move that box, the ECU box, put the ECU in the cabin or somewhere else, maybe even put it across here or something under the bar. Get rid of that and put the air filter there. But that's a later thing, I think. I'm not sure on that. I really hate having that box right there. It is just a pain in the ass. It's in the way for everything. But anyway, so I've ordered a new radiator 32mm or 36mm Koyo racing one. Ordered it from Car Mods Australia, and then they emailed me like 3 days later saying, sorry, we can't get it. So I was like, whatever. So shit happens. I'm just going to move the car. 1 sec. All right, move the car. Now, so front bar. Can't really get a good picture of it, but I'll put some pictures up shortly. But yeah, if it's good, it's not perfect. Obviously it's dusty at the moment because I was welding yesterday, and it's got a scratch just there, which, yeah, I don't know, I'll see if I buff that out, but it's also got some crazy cracking over here. So I didn't paint this bar, it just came like this from my mate. So anyway, it's going to be resprayed, the whole car's going to get resprayed soon. And I've got to fix this up. This is supposed to go underneath that bar, and for whatever reason it's going over the top of it. So yeah, anyway, not a big concern. So what I did was I did some ducting in the front. So made some ducting the whole way around, goes straight to the back on the front firewall behind the radiator, and seals this entire section from left and right. So when the air comes in from the front, it can only go through the intercooler and then can only go through the radiator. That made quite a big difference yesterday. Granted, it was night driving. I turned the thermo fans on at 70 degrees and I couldn't get the temp up above 78 degrees until I got onto the highway, which is great because normally as soon as I start driving it's at 82 to 84 degrees, and then as soon as I get on the highway it's like 90. And yeah, yesterday 80, 82, 84 on the highway, turned the aircon on, went to 88, 89, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. But yeah, as soon as I got some heat soaking into that radiator, it still, yeah, managed to get to like 92 degrees with the aircon on after a few pulls. So, new radiator, should fix it. I've also ordered a oil cooler line kit for the second oil cooler to go over there, so yeah, that's got a bit run. That'll be here in a couple of days. I've ordered another oil cooler as well. I just got to get the bracket. So when that comes, I'll make up some ducting for this side because I don't think that side has any ducting at the moment. Like, it's got some, but air can still go this way. Yeah, not that you can really see it, but yeah, at the moment, this side is empty. There is nothing there apart from an intercooler pipe. So oil cooler here, line go over there, get the oil temps down. I mean, most of the time the oil temp's only like 92 degrees anyway, but the hotter the oil, the hotter the coolant. So if in summer, driving around on a track or something, and oil temperature is 98 to 100, that's going to heat the engine up anyway. Hot oil heats engine gets hot, coolant gets hot, cooling can't keep up. Bigger problem. So dual oil coolers, new radiator, ducting, mounted that intercooler correctly and blacked it out. So because that intercooler was already powder coated, I just sprayed a ceramic black over the top, which I used some of this stuff, enamel with ceramic. But yeah, I don't think it'll affect the thermal efficiency of the intercooler at all. But we'll see what happens. Now, I did turn the boost up to 18 for a couple of pulls last night, and I got currently 70% ethanol or 65%. I was hoping for a little bit higher. So I was hoping to get at least to like 75% to 80% ethanol, but I think the ethanol that I got last night must have been diluted a little bit. So I'm gonna drive around on this, get to like half a tank or so, tune the current 65% flex fuel ethanol, E85, whatever. So it's more like E65. Get that under control, get the baseline, fill back up with E85 again, try and get to 80, 85%. I want to get 100% E85 or 85% ethanol, and then turn the boost up. 18 PSI was fucking awesome. Like that was a whole different world of power. Between 14 and 16, there's not a lot. Up top there is, mid-range and low end, it just doesn't make any difference. Like honestly, between say 3000 RPM and 6000 RPM, it doesn't feel any different between 10 psi and 16 psi. At 6000 RPM, there is a big difference between 14 and 18. Not too much of a difference between 14 and 16. So yeah, once we get this tuned for 18, I'm going to go to 20. 24, I think, is my ceiling for 10:1 compression with 85% ethanol. And judging by the log that for the 18 psi pool, fuel pressure dropped about 1 psi at redline, and injectors were 79% for stage 1 and stage 2. So I'm thinking 20 psi is going to be close to 85 to 88%, and then 22 psi is probably going to be 90, 92, maybe 94. And then at that point I'm going to need bigger injectors and then bigger fuel pumps, and it's just going to snowball. But intake manifold is probably going to blow apart. I don't expect that to hold up too well on 20 psi. I did use the smoke test machine over there. I bought off Temu, good old Temu. No leaks whatsoever. Everything's good. But yeah, I've got a plan for that intake manifold. I got a 3D scan of it, obviously, and the lower. And we're thinking about getting a lower matched to the RX8 flange off of an FD with minus all the random control EGT crap on there. Get it 3D printed in aluminium, and then make an upper intake manifold, or use like an FD style upper manifold with a RX8 throttle body on it. Yeah, not sure on that yet. Still working out the flow dynamics and shit on that. I got the scans I've started doing, I just haven't finished it yet. But that will be very good, because then I can have 2 extra injectors, because I want to put obviously 4 runners, keep the 2 in the primary in the irons, and then have 4 injectors across the top. So I just got to balance that. Stage 3 injectors will be doubling up, because obviously they'll be in the primaries as well. So I need to obviously make sure that doesn't mess up things, but we'll see what happens. Otherwise I might just have to go to 2600 secondaries, and yeah, 1000 primaries will be fine, but the secondaries can just be wide open nozzles, because that just needs to fuel shit. But yeah, we'll see how we go. So we'll leave this video here. A lot's been happening, but obviously I haven't recorded a lot of it. This has happened over, it's now like the 18th of January. So yeah, the last video was Christmas roughly, and all this has kind of happened over the past 3 weeks. Trying to get a little bit more content out there, but it is definitely hard. But anyway, one thing before I do go actually is I do have one of these that I bought, which I've been testing. So this is a mini vacuum pump. So one thing, the hell is there a clamp on there? One thing that I have noticed, I was testing it with a valve on it. This does work really well. It's just a little bit noisy, and I don't really like it, but it was like $30, and it was better than spending $200 on a decent one, and then finding out it didn't work. So I've got to try this, because SSV VDI, right, is very important on a 4-port. So SSV is good for your low-end spool up. VDI is a must for redline. I couldn't get this to rev past 7,000 RPM. It died in the arse around 6,600. And I couldn't figure out why. We thought it was overfueling, so we pulled fuel out, pulled the VE out, changed the timing, and it started to go there, but it just did not like it. The VDI was wired closed, and it just would not go past 6,600 comfortably. Now I wired it open, it completely screwed everything. Like the entire fuel map was routed. It was about 15% too rich. Now I kind of just pulled 15% out of the fuel scaler, composition scaler for flex fuel, which caught me off guard because I didn't expect it to happen. And I lost a lot of low end power. But I could go to 8,500 RPM easily. It just wanted to go there. As soon as it hit 6,000 RPM, it just took off like a rocket, like almost slingshot. So VDI has to be in and working or wide open, and you have to tune around it. So the idea with that pump is the chamber on the bottom of the intake manifold. So got a spare one. So this here, that goes on the bottom of the intake manifold, goes that way. Yeah, that way. Bolts on like that. On the back here, we have a port just there. So that port just there comes off the back of the intake manifold on the side there, which is where the Haltech gets its reference from. Now that has a check valve on it, little green and white thing that sits around here roughly. What I want to do is keep the Haltech on the reference, run the vacuum pump off onto here. So this is a vacuum reservoir, and have this on its own independent electronic vacuum, so that SSV and VDI can be controlled at any point, at any condition of the engine, and any boost level. Where right now at 6,000 RPM, or say 5,500 RPM, if that vacuum chamber is not under vacuum, there is no way that VDI is going to open. And if you spool up, change gears too quick, and I've had it happen a couple of times, first to second and then second to third, there is not enough vacuum in that chamber to pull the SSV open. Now, I don't have a switch on there to say it's open or closed. I probably should have one, because it's a pain in the ass. If it doesn't open, you go lean very quick. So I might even look at putting a switch on that. I should have one. I didn't. Whatever. Just to say, hey Haltech, if the SSV is told to open and it doesn't open within 0.25 of a second or half a second, reduce the boost down or just go into limp mode or something, just to protect the engine. Like it, yeah, the Haltech will go, hey, we'll run and lean, and the fuel will just run down the wall and just drip in and just go super rich as soon as it's ready. But yeah, it needs to open, and I don't want to wire it open because it drives like shit. Fuel trims go up to shit. Highway economy is crap. Speaking of economy, last night when I put fuel in, filled with the E85, I had 98 in there. I had about maybe a quarter of a tank left. I put about 40 litres of E85 in, which is why I'm at 65% flex. I had 320 kilometres on the odometer for that tank, and I still had a quarter of a tank left, which means I probably would have got maybe about 350 before the fuel light came on, and about 400 before I ran out of fuel. That is heaps better than the wife's red one. The red one gets about 270 to a tank, and that's a 4-speed automatic with a standard engine. It is, this fuel efficiency wise, that's with pushing it a bit as well. This is awesome. Like, I can't believe how many Ks I can get out of a tank on this. But anyway, whatever. So we'll leave that there. Deal with that in another video. Deal with the rest in another video. I'm taking the exhaust valve off as well because I really don't like that. It just not a fan of it. And yeah, that'll be in a couple of weeks' time, I guess. And got a few other things coming, and work's picking up. So make some money, pay my tax bill, get money back in the car. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.